Hi guys, I hope you had a fabulous Easter. I hope you're enjoying this lovely sunny weather outside. Just before you go to bed, their bedtime story. I'm going to continue on with our fantastic friends or foe. It was still dark when Mr. Reynolds woke up. He was in his home guard uniform. Darby's downstairs. They want to be out on the moor by daybreak and they want you to come along and show them where it was you saw the plane. Quick as you can, me dears, or we can go till you're ready. The kitchen was full of uniforms, police and soldiers, and they all stood watching them eat down their porridge that Anne insisted they must have before they left. David looked up occasionally, his plate of steaming porridge in front of him, and he recognised some of the faces behind the uniforms. They looked tired and disbelieving. Mr. Reynolds was bending over a map with a tall soldier in a peaked cap and a wet mackintosh. "It was out the bedroom window, sir," he was saying, "so it must be in this area here, almost for certain." "But Reynolds," the officer took off his cap and shook it. "There's 2 observation posts between here and there. Surely if there'd been a plane, someone else would have spotted it." "Not if they were following the searchlight, sir. The boys say the searchlight was sweeping over the village itself at the time." The officer turned to face the boys. He had a mean face, with a thin moustache that barely covered his top lip. "You say they're evacuees, Reynolds?" "That's right, sir, and fine lads they are too, sir. Been with us 3 months now. If they say they saw it, then they can be sure they did, sir." "Quite so, Reynolds, quite so," said the officer, but he did not sound convinced. Outside it was drizzling grey dawn. There was a whole convoy of trucks blocking the lane, and the officer gave the order to get started. Anne wrapped them up in scarves, and then they followed Mr. Reynolds and clambered into the back of the jeep at the head of the column. The officer with the thin moustache clambered in front and nodded to his driver. "I hope they're right, Reynolds. There's 30 home guard here and a whole company from the barracks in this search. I hope you're right." David looked up nervously at Mr. Reynolds, who smiled and winked down at him. Tucky was beginning to wish he hadn't told anybody. 10 times that day the convoy halted, and the soldiers spread out over the moor and disappeared over the hilltops, their rifles hidden under their capes to protect them from the driving rain. The 2 boys were left behind with the trucks and the drivers, and each time the soldiers came back empty-handed they felt worse. The officer kept asking them about the shape of the hills they'd seen as the plane came down. He kept pointing up at the hillsides and asking them if they recognised the hilltop. But to the boys all the hills looked exactly the same. They hadn't even noticed the shape the night before. The officer looked less and less pleased. The rain cleared after a bit, and after lunch a spotter plane circled above them all afternoon. The soldiers, some of whom had been quite friendly to start with, now made little attempt to hide their feelings. It was clear what they thought of the townie's story. For David and Tucky, it was a nightmare. They knew there'd been a plane and they were almost certain it had come down, but each time a search failed and Mr. Reynolds clambered wearily back into the jeep, shaking his head, they began wondering if they'd been seeing things that were not there. By the time the convoy passed the cottage that evening and dropped them off, they knew that everyone thought they had invented the whole story. Even Mr. Reynolds seemed dejected. "Here you are," said the officer as they jumped out. "If it was a day off school they wanted Reynolds, then they certainly got it." "You won't believe us," said Tucky, rather obviously, as the truck sped off from the lane. "It's not your fault," said Mr. Reynolds, putting an arm around each of them. "Maybe the plane wasn't as low as you thought. Perhaps it managed to pull up." "Could have looked in the wrong places," David said. "Moor's a big place." "Of course we could have, me dear," said Mr. Reynolds, ushering them through the door. "But I don't think we did." He didn't sound disbelieving or sarcastic, just weary. "It was a plane, Mr. Reynolds," Tucky said as they were saying goodnight. "You saw it?" "Honest we did." "Of course you did, Tucky. We both know you did, don't we, Anne? Off you go now, it's been a long day. You're tired. I'm tired, and Anne is certainly tired. She's done the farm all by herself today. Let's think no more about it." But they did think about it. They thought about little else all week. Everyone in the village had heard about the search, and at school the townies were not allowed to forget about it. Everyone had made up his mind. The townies had got themselves off school for a day by calling out the Home Guard, the Army and the spotter plane on some cock and bull story about a bomber coming down on the moor. Tucky was not the warlike type, but he very nearly got himself into a fight when someone suggested it might have been a flying saucer they'd seen, and they'd all better keep their eyes open for little men from Mars. Mr. Cooper stopped it just in time. Nonetheless, people laughed about it openly, and for the first time since they came to the village, David and Tucky felt alone again and separate from the other children. Time and time again they went over what they had seen that night, and time again they had convinced themselves it had been a plane, that the engines had been spluttering, and that it had been going down when the lights vanished. But every time they had to reconcile all of that with the fact that no plane had been found, and all the reasoning in the world could not change that. Anne tried hard to console them at home, explaining how easy it was to make mistakes, how often the eyes could deceive. "But we heard it as well, Anne. Both of us did," said David. Mr. Reynolds stood up from the tea table and put on his hat. "You still think there's a plane up there, don't you?" "I know there is," David replied. "But we searched all day, Davy. There was nothing there." "Can't we try?" Tucky stood up. "Can't we go and look for ourselves? I think we went too far away with the soldiers. It wasn't that far away. We heard those engines as if they were just over the cottage. I remember the windows shook." "Please, Mr. Reynolds," David added his support. "Just one last chance, please." "All right, me dears, but I'll not be able to come with you. I've left the farm for one day this week, and there's still a mass of work to catch up on. Farm doesn't work itself, you know, and I can't leave it all to Anne now, can I?" "It's Saturday tomorrow," said Anne. "It's lovely on the moor when it's fine like it was today, and even if you do not find the plane, it would be a good walk anyway, no?" "Only if it's fine, mind," Mr. Reynolds added. "And you're not to go anywhere we haven't been together already. You'll have to turn around by midday. I don't want to call the army out again to come looking for you two on the moor. May not be very keen to find you anyway." Will they be safe, Jerry?" Anne looked worried. "We've been up there often enough, I think. The weather's right, they'll manage. I've told them and warned them often enough. 'Tis summer now, there's not much can go wrong if they stick to the tracks." It was fine the next day, and the final search was on. It was still wet underfoot as they tramped across the fields, but as soon as they reached the lower slopes of the moor, they felt the spring of the turf under their boots, and the higher they climbed, the drier it became. So we'll find out tomorrow if David and Tucky actually find anything up there on the moors. So until then, stay safe. If you have work to do, work hard. Slytherin, Stormbreaker and Camelot, if you're watching this, use your say-so, and we'll speak to you very soon. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.